what's happening? It's your dude, the merciless Reese L. Black. Welcome back to the booth. I want to go ahead and take the time to thank the new subscribers. Thank you for your support. Also, if you haven't, make sure you follow the show on the gram at CO2 Rawcast. And if you want to be nosy, go ahead and follow your dude. Good evening, Mr. Black. I actually wanted to go ahead and take the time to address something pretty serious in my book, somewhat of causing a ripple in today's dating community. I actually want to go ahead and take the time to talk to the ladies, if you don't mind. Ladies, I would like to ask you, are you even ready to date? Really, what the main question is, do you even like men? Not saying, do you want to date women? No. I'm just saying, when you see men, do you like them? Do you have a great feeling when you get around them, or is this always negative? One of the things I like to do is I take a lot of time and I've observed a lot of other platforms, whether it's dating coaches, relationship improvement coaches, or just commenting panels. And one of the things that I've noticed is we have a lot of complaints coming from the ladies, but it's not pretty much just your general across the board entitlement complaints. No, it almost seems like some things are a little bit rooted deeper. And so I kind of felt like if you're really dealing with something where you have this point of where you always need to oppose men, maybe there's something therapeutic that needs to be taken for you to resolve the situation. Ask yourself this: do your friends even hook you up with men? Now, the majority of the relationships today and in the past, even marriages, usually happen because there's a mutual individual in between that hooks up the other person. There's always a mutual friend, right? Now, that homegirl of yours, does she even take the time to hook you up with some of her homeboys, her cousin, her brother? Or not just like your day one, do any of your female cohorts do this? Now, if the answer is no, then most likely the issue is you. If you have day one, your day one homegirls don't even want to hook you up with a dude, or if you guys are out and about in a nightclub or a bar, coffee shop, or just kicking it, at a park or something, festival, and there are a bunch of men there, and none of your homegirls are like, hey, I want you to introduce yourself to my friend, she's single. If that's not popping off, if your friends don't even have the will or determination to get you hooked up, then there's a problem. I know there are some cases where friends usually want their friends to get some. Like, hey girl, you need some D in your life. But if they're just like, no, you're pretty much a lost cause, then it's you. Even your own homegirls don't even want to hook you up with a man because honestly, they kind of feel like you will do damage to the man. But that's just my opinion. Are you always challenging? If you're always in the presence of a man and you're having a conversation, whether you're on a date or if you're just discussing something, do you always feel the need to prove him wrong? Not necessarily prove yourself right, but do you always have to feel the need to just prove him wrong about everything? One of the things that in my experience that I noticed, like when I was dating, I've always noticed that when we're speaking about something, whether it's about something in general, like something historical, economic, financial, health, even in pop culture, I've kind of always noticed that she will just be like, nah, I don't believe that. Nah, that's not true. You would literally have a source. You would literally bring up the piece of information to fact check, and you will still continue to be like, nah. You might even say something like this: I don't care how many books you read. I don't believe that shit. I don't care what you show me. I'm not gonna believe that shit. That's dumb. That's a turnoff. That's cognitive dissonance right there. I completely showed you what this was, and you're being stubborn to the point where you just don't want to admit that this was truth. That's a huge turnoff. So we can only imagine what it would be like being in a relationship with you and things go down where things need to be taken care of seriously, like something financial, but you're pretty much just like, nah. That ain't the case. Yeah, that ain't us. It's you. Do you always oppose men when they approach you? Now, on our end, we always used to talk about the resting bitch face. We kind of hated that shit, but to me, in my opinion, some women are just not having a good day. You don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on in your world. But when you come to a social environment, whether it's a bar, nightclub, a happy hour spot, a place where people normally mingle, and you look like you don't want to be bothered, okay, people like myself are not going to approach you. But if your homegirls are telling you to lighten up, geez, because guess what? Your homegirls are trying to get some play. They're the ones trying to get some man to come over there and talk to them, buy them drinks, enjoy their evening, whatever the case may be. But you're the one that's pretty much leaving a freaking thorn in the damn mood. Like, damn, lighten up. It's you. Do you have respect for men? Were you taught to respect men? I'm not talking about every time a man comes around, you bow down and worship. No, we're not talking about that. But let's look at the men that you probably respect right now. Do you interrupt singers while they're singing? Do you interrupt a rapper when they're rapping? Do you speak when the pastor is teaching at a church? Do you interrupt the minister when they're teaching Sunday school? Now, possibly not, because these are individuals who are not only authority figures, but they also have a grasp on an audience when it comes to attention because of their craft. They're entertaining. But when an individual is just sitting there talking in front of you like a man or whatever, and he's trying to explain something, do you have the tendency to interrupt without even excusing? Do you just butt in regardless of what they're talking about? If they're trying to get a point across and you're not allowing them to get the point across, that's rude. Us as men, we pretty much had a tendency to be raised by a lot of women, so we were taught by a lot of women. We had a lot of women instructors when we were little. We were pretty much told to shut up, and the consequence was pretty much dealing with our mothers when we got home, another woman who brought us up to shut up. But were you taught to like, let this man speak? Learn, or if you do oppose, wait until all the information gets out so you can go ahead and give your rebuttal. But if you're already refuting and they haven't even gotten to the climax of the point, the punchline of the point, so you can go ahead and construct your argument, you're just jumping to conclusions. That's mad rude, and that's also a freaking turnoff. You need to check that, especially if you only tend to do it when it's men. But when it's anybody else, whether it's a famous man or if it's just a woman, and you don't butt in when they're trying to get something across, then yeah, that's you, and that's a lack of respect right there. You need to check that, and nobody wants to date anybody who's like that. Do you blame men for everything? A lot of you ladies will be in a long-term relationship with a guy, 2 to 3 years, it's not going anywhere, and next thing you know, when you guys break up, you feel like your time is wasted. So when you try to get back into the dating pool, what ends up happening is you already have this negativity ready for the next man that's trying to come into your life and actually probably do something good. You spend 2 to 3 years on a relationship with a guy you shouldn't have been in a relationship with, you blame him. You could literally be at a job for 2 to 3 years and you don't blame the job. You actually hold yourself accountable because you're still there until something better comes along. You don't quit as of yet, but we know why. Because guess what? That shitty job that you've been on for 2 to 3 years pays the bills, but being with this guy who you saying about shit, there was zero benefit. But why are you blaming the next man that tries to come along in your life on something that you chose to stick with in the past? Do you wish harm on men? Now, I like to reference the movie Hustlers with Jennifer Lopez. Now, if you've ever seen that movie, these women were literally drugging men and taking their credit cards and committing a whole lot of fraudulent shit. A lot of women will pretty much applaud that shit and say things like, yeah, well, men do it to us all the time. But how often do these women actually go after their abusers and get payback? They don't. These are literally innocent men who ain't had shit to do with shit about your past, and they ended up getting drugged and they ended up getting robbed by you. Now, if you're applauding some shit like that, I don't wish harm on anybody. But if you're like, yeah, that's what he get, and you don't know this man and he didn't do anything, then that's a sick problem that you got going in your head, especially if you think that you would probably do some shit like that too. That's where you kind of need therapy. When you want to see a man hurt, especially an innocent man hurt who didn't do shit but want to just show you a damn good time, just want to get to know you regardless of the environment. He has no plans of harming you. And if you pretty much have it in your head like, yo, how do I know he ain't gonna harm me? Then you really need to stay out of the dating field and you need to seek therapy or seek coaching, because you may have a tendency of hurting that man. Imagine if you had kids, if you had a son. If that happened to him, are you gonna say to your son, well, what did you do to her? Or did you plan on her? It's like, boys generally don't get energy like that from their mom, and they shouldn't. But if you pretty much have a mentality like that, that's a huge red flag. You need to do something about that. You're not ready to date. Last but not least, I just wanted to plug this one in. What was the relationship like with your father? Now, what's actually interesting is we actually have a lot of women and men who are rekindling relationships with their biological fathers, and they're finding out the truth from him. Some of them found out like their mom was lying to them the whole entire time. And so when they ended up developing this new relationship with their father, they get pissed off at mom. But you also want to make sure you don't cause hate on mom either, because that's unhealthy. No telling what mom was going through. You'll never know unless you just have this conversation with your mom and dad at the same time. That way, nobody can lie in front of you. And basically, if someone is lying, you could pretty much tell. But what was that relationship like with dad? If he was unavailable, did that have an impact? If he was available and he was just negligent, did that have an impact? You need to ask yourself these questions, especially before you date. Because guess what? Majority of men, guess what? They want children. Yeah, we don't want to die and don't have anything here to carry our name and our blood on. We are basically about that legacy. We want our name to live on. And if you're the type of woman that does not want to have children, that's your decision. But it's very, very rare that men grow up not wanting any children. So now you got to make that decision. Is that something you want? You may not be ready to date if you're not ready to be a mother, because I guarantee you, when a man has life popping and he's ready to basically go ahead and have a seed of his own, little daughter, little boy, best believe he's going to bring that up. And he's not going to think too highly of you if he has a woman or a wife that does not want to have children. Best believe he will find a way to get one. Anyways, that's my video for today. I'm sorry that we had to get serious for a minute, but this is real talk, because at the end of the day, I would love everybody in our dating community to succeed and win. So, until the next time, you know how I do. I'm out this piece. Good evening, Mr. Black.